Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Blast the Process. We're raising Sega awareness. I'm Listar, and with me I have Drakodan here, and he'll be doing some good old-fashioned hero story for Sonic Adventure 2, our only 3D Sonic game during this entire marathon. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, thank you. I've been playing this game a lot lately, owing to the Hero Story tournament currently going on Speed Gaming, so I'm pretty sharpened and in good condition for this, I'd say.
Alright, excellent. We're looking forward to a good race. Good luck to you. We could start whenever you're ready.
Okay, so should I just give you a countdown?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Alright then, so 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, hello everyone, as Liz has already said, I'm Drakodan. This is Hero Story of Sonic Adventure 2. Immediately as we get into this run, about 40 seconds into City Escape, pretty much like 10 seconds after I'm going to be getting out the boarding section, there is an opportunity for one of the most significant skips in the entire run. But unfortunately, it's also one of the most random skips in the run, so I'm really just going to give it a single attempt as I approach it, and if I don't get it, I'm going to continue normally. The long and short of it is that I need to approach one of the upcoming ramps on a hill with as much speed as possible. I'm going to need to actually avoid the speed pads coming up to it as they'll slow me down too much, and then with the correct speed and the correct launch, there's a chance that I may get launched to the right while out of bounds and skip some of the stage. Let's see how this goes. Got a jump, but I didn't get the skip. Yeah, the positioning for that and a bunch of other factors really make it so that you cannot consistently hope to get that, but it was a good attempt at it. So everyone who's familiar with this run was in suspense for the briefest of moments, but yeah, you get to see the rest of the scene now. It saves about 30 seconds, so if you're going for world record, then that is a major reset point. Like, world record attempts are 90% resetting on that skip. So instead we're going to go down the skyscraper here. I'm going to jump off at the right time and hold up to conserve my speed when I get to the bottom, and I'm just going to take this pit skip a little safe because the camera can be a bit unfriendly there and it's quite easy to die on that pit. Which, if that happened, would actually put me back before the skip and give me another attempt at it, but I'd rather not lose a lot of time. I also need to make sure that I don't die at the bottom of the rail there, as jumping off the wrong spot there can actually lock your controls and send you straight into the pit. So we're getting into the truck section here, and this truck section is a good example of Sonic's base movement in the game. The basic movement in this game is done by using the spin dash, and how you want to use the spin dash depends on the type of surface that you're on. If you're on a flat surface or going uphill, you want to chain your spin dashes by rapidly unrolling and recharging them. But if you're going downhill, you just want to hold them, as you can see me doing on the hills right there, because you will just keep accelerating as you're going downhill. So that's Sonic's basic movement, and we just go straight from City Escape into Sonic's first boss, which is Bigfoot.
And we followed them and set them free. We did a good job, I think.
So this is a fairly simplistic boss where I simply need to deal 4 hits to the cockpit, and there's 4 boxes in each of the corners of the stage, and we can use those to gain more height and deal damage more quickly. You can either use the front boxes or the back boxes. Front is quicker but is more difficult, and I'm going to be going for that right now. That looks like a pretty good fight to me. We'll see what we get.
Nice. Good job.
I got 21:42. The fastest you can get in that fight is 21:39, so I only was 2 frames off the fastest possible time for that boss, which is pretty nice. So we're getting into Knuckles' first stage here, Wild Canyon. These are the emerald hunting stages. The way these stages work is that you examine the hint monitors and they will give you a hint which corresponds to a piece location, and you need to find 3 pieces throughout the stage. The way that the game generates the pieces is actually surprisingly complex. There's quite a lot of math involved. The TLDR of it is... Oh, what piece is this? Oh, very nice. Yeah, the TLDR of it is that your first piece is basically completely random. There's just a pool of first pieces, second pieces, and third pieces. The game will just give you a random piece 1. To calculate your piece 2, it will look at the piece 1 that you got, it will compare it to all the possible piece 2s in the stage, and it will lock out the 50% of piece 2s that are closest to your piece 1's location, and then give you a random piece from the remaining piece 2s. So in other words, you'll always get a piece 2 that's at least moderately far away from piece 1. As far as piece 3 goes, it does a lot of like complex math where it looks at your first 2 pieces and then examines the area between those and all possible piece 3s, and then once again it gives you a 50% piece 3 that gives the largest possible area between all those different cross products. It's a lot of math, honestly, and I'm not explaining it too well, but it can be explained a little more succinctly in text form. Basically, piece 1's random, piece 2's far away, piece 3 could potentially be anywhere. As far as Tails' gameplay in this game, we've already got through the first boss, as it's a really simple affair. Tails' movement, however, is quite a bit more difficult than his boss fights. Tails handles in a mech, unlike Sonic and Knuckles, and although the mech's speed isn't bad once it gets going, its acceleration is really bad, and its ability to conserve speed while cornering is really bad. So the meat of Tails' movement tech is actually jumping around corners. You're going to see me do that as much as possible, because if I corner too sharply on the ground, I'll lose all my speed. But if I jump and then turn in the air, I will actually conserve a lot of my speed. And Prison Lane's gimmick is about destroying certain enemies quickly to unlock the gates that are periodically locked through the stage. You can actually target enemies earlier than intended by exploiting certain positional elements, such as I targeted an enemy through the wall there, which unlocks a gate early, and there's a few spots where that's used later in the stage as well. Boxes can also completely stop your momentum. So I'm actually going to listen here to hear if a box breaks, because it'll change what I do later in the stage. Okay, the boxes are still there, so I'm just going to take a little hop off them here. And then just getting off that elevator as quickly as possible. Doing that is a little tricky because those enemies come along and try to snipe you out of the air, and if you don't anticipate their approach and jump at the right time, then they will get you very easily. So getting another early enemy here to try and trigger the final door before the gate before it, and also using some gate hops by staggering when I destroy the enemies that control it so that I can jump on it as it's descending. That skips the need to take some of the elevators, which are honestly pretty slow. 140 is a pretty respectable prison lane. I can potentially get times in excess of a few seconds faster than that, but it's a really technical stage. So this takes us into Sonic's second stage, Metal Harbor, and this is the first stage in the run where we actually get an upgrade. The characters get several upgrades through the game, and we're going to get Sonic's light shoes, which will let us use the light dash across Trails of Rings. It technically is an optional upgrade, but it's not helpful to skip it. So we're just going to get it coming up here. Whoa, okay. Slow down there. Thanks, game. Alright. There are some moving platforms that go back and forth there, and one of them unexpectedly moved into my position and raised me off the floor, and then when I attempted to do a spin dash jump, the game considered me not grounded after I released the spin dash, so I was not actually able to jump there. So that's a little bit of an unfortunate death, but it's not a major one. So here's the aforementioned light shoes. Now I'm simply going to light dash across Trails of Rings like that when the opportunity presents itself. This is a good example of what I mentioned about chaining spin dashes with Sonic when you're on a flat surface, and the same is true whenever I'm going uphill. There's a possible pulley skip that can be performed here, but it's honestly not trivial, and it's very easy to take a death there, and being that it only saves a couple of seconds, I do not consider myself consistent enough to go for it in a setting like this. Safety first and all that. Same reason why I actually don't homing attack the beetles across that last gap, because a homing attack is not required to cross that gap, and the homing attack detection in this game, like the way it prioritizes which target to go for, is really weird. Sometimes Sonic will ignore a target you want to go for, and he'll deliberately go for a target behind him. And if that happens in the wrong manner on that chain, it can actually get you killed since you can't make it across the gap any longer. So there's just one final loop skip coming up in Metal Harbor. Hopefully the camera's going to cooperate and not get me killed. Alright, that's fine. So, considering I took the death there, 125 itself is a pretty average finishing time, which I'm pretty happy with, but yeah, I could have just done without taking the death there, but yeah, sometimes these things just happen, and it was, like I say, because of some stage elements moving back and forth that I'm not normally accustomed to needing to deal with. Like, that was my fault, so I can at least prevent that happening in the future, hopefully. So coming up to the Shadow 1 boss fight, there's a couple of advanced tech elements involved in going faster in this fight. First of all, I'm going to time when to start my inputs and do a spin dash towards him, and I'm going to use a trick called Storage to damage him, which is simply holding B. Since the somersault and the spin dash are on the same button, if you hold B, in the time before the spin dash comes out, the game considers you to be somersaulting, and you can use that to damage Shadow. Ah, I just didn't release the B button, but that's fine. So not a great Shadow fight, but still, whatever. I got the spin dash off correctly, but I just didn't release the B button correctly to take me out of the spin dashing animation and then use storage into him. That or my aim could have been very slightly off as well. So Green Forest is the next stage of the run that also has potential for a major skip. Since there is a checkpoint directly before it, I am going to give it a single attempt. But I'm not particularly consistent at this skip, so I can't make any promises, albeit it looks really, really, really nice when performed correctly, so hopefully I can get it. There's a lot of parts that go into it, though. I need to use a very specific setup to get on a specific part of a loop, spin dash off it in the correct way, homing attack back towards it in the correct way, and then if all of those go right, I will get the correct movement path to land me on the main tree in the stage. And then if all of that goes right, then I get an attempt at running up it in a specific way to get a specific exit off the tree. There are a lot of constituent parts to this, and if a single part goes wrong, it basically kills any chance I have of continuing it because of the way the game's going to try to not allow me to run on the tree. So while I'm going for it, I'm going to be gauging whether it's actually worth going for, and if it's going wrong, then I'm just going to have to bail out. Like I said, there's a checkpoint right before the skip, so oh dear. That's not the first time that death has happened to me lately, because I'm angling a little too far up to try and hit the top spring of those three there, which conserves a little more speed, so just take that a little safer. So this is where the skip takes place. As I say, I'm going to make sure that I get the checkpoint here. And here we go. Ah, alright. I didn't even land on the setup spot correctly, so I'm going to give that like one more attempt. I want to at least try to get the homing attack trigger once. Ah, yeah, okay, no. I homing attacked into the wrong part of the loop speed trigger, and it just sent me into the water. Once you trigger that, you don't have control over Sonic's angle, and that's what I mean about there is only one specific way you can trigger that, where you can get an attempt that will actually work. So had I landed on the right spot, I would be running up this tree instead of taking these springs. And then there's a very specific way which I can jump off the tree and use what's called a spin dash hover, or rather just the hover mechanics in the game, to get more height and airtime than I'm supposed to, and I can just make it over to the spot that I was just at. But as it is right now, I'm just going to do this the normal way. And how much time
does that save about?
If perfectly executed, it's about 20 seconds faster.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely considerable. Again, it's a trick that if you're going for world record, you kind of don't really have the option of passing it up. But being that it's really difficult, it's another potential reset point. Like you've got CE skip, and then you've got the Green Forest wall run with the task run release.
This is a very difficult run, you would say?
Yeah, this run is extremely difficult. Like just to pick up and to just run this and get used to it. It's not too bad, albeit the Knuckles stages will probably give you a hard time since you need to memorize a lot of pieces. There are about 100 locations per stage to learn, but if you want to get a really good time in this game, then it is extremely demanding. So Knuckles is about to get his first upgrade, the Shovel Claws, and I'm also cancelling the hint and upgrade text there by making them overlap each other. My first piece here is double containers, which is normally a bad piece, but it can be in multiple locations, and I got it at the best location. This is a really good piece too, as well. Those pieces were unnaturally close together. So what's my third hint? Yeah, like, I got that so quickly that I had to actually wait for the next hint to be able to trigger to tell me where to go. You can just try and search for pieces hintless in this stage, but it's most of the time absolutely not worth it. Like, it's well worth waiting to see where your next hint is. So getting a 38 in Pumpkin Hill is still pretty good. I would call that, like, above average. Average would be, like, from getting a 40 to a 45, and times in that stage can go, like, as low as getting a 30 if your pieces are, like, really, really good. So I'm perfectly happy with a 38. So Sonic and Knuckles have gotten their first upgrades. and Tails is about to get his first upgrade, the booster, which will allow us to use a technique called hover jumping. You're normally meant to use the hover to just traverse wide gaps since it slows the rate at which you descend, but if you trigger the hover while you are still ascending in your jump, then you'll get an extra burst of momentum upwards, which will actually let you get out of bounds in specific places, and will let you get onto early cycles that you're not supposed to be able to make. The first instance of that is here, and I'm going to have to really focus on this. Yes, so what I did there was a pause hover. Basically, I am jumping and then pausing immediately after starting the jump. I then unpause and use an A input directly after unpausing to use the hover. So it's a way of cheesing the game into letting you get two A presses very close together, like within a few frames of each other. And your hover needs to be of that quality to get onto that falling weight. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to make that, and I would have had to wait several seconds for that to come down. So now that I've made that, I have a chance at making an earlier cycle in this stage, which we call the zero cycle. We previously thought that the cycle that we were getting, which is now first cycle, or still is first cycle, was the fastest that you can get. And then once the task was published, we found out that by using that weight hop that I just did, we can actually make a faster cycle in the stage. And since we didn't want to rename stuff, we just call this the zero cycle now. And everything in the stage went really well, so I have comfortably made zero cycle. It looked like pretty elementary there, but again, Tails is really easy to lose speed with. There are a lot of obstacles that can force you to slow down that stage, and you do not have a lot of spare time to play with to make zero cycle. So that is a lot more demanding than it looks, and you need to move very well for an extended period of time through that stage. I'm just quite well practiced at getting zero cycle. So the only thing that can really slow my progress at this point is these boxes right here, yeah, such as when they did it there. I at least got through the second set well, but then the indestructible police car stopped me for a little bit as well. Tails' stage are like obstacle courses, honestly. However, still going to finish with a pretty good time since I did get the zero cycle. This is going to be a sub 210. Yeah, a 207, which is pretty nice. For reference, if you just get a standard first cycle, you can expect to get a 220 in this stage. Maybe a 218 if your end of level movement is really, really good. It's possible for me to save in-game time as well by exploiting the cycle timers. When I pick up the booster, I can just let the text remain on screen, which keeps the in-game timer frozen. And since the cycles are moving independently, I can squeeze a few more seconds on the in-game timer by waiting to go a bit longer. So, Aquatic Mine, Knuckles' third stage. In this intro cutscene, I'm actually keeping my eyes peeled for 3 pieces, and I have got one. So I know where my first piece is already going to be. Regardless though, first thing I'm going to do is go up top and trigger water level 3, since there are barely any pieces that you don't want that water level for, and the water only hinders your movement. Yep, my second piece is going to be in the narrow path, which follows the rule of what I said before. The game is always going to give you a piece 2, which is fairly far away from your piece 1, so I knew it was going to be on the opposite side of the stage. And then I get another free piece, which I could have seen, potentially, but still not very far away, so wow. I will definitely take a 26 in Aquatic Mine. Yeah, that is definitely on the better side of RNG for that stage. I would say that average time in that stage is like between 35 and 40 seconds, so that was really good.
You said that there are some that do require a different water level of 3. In that case, do you just have to take the time loss?
You can either use clip outs to try and get them without changing the water level, or you can just go back up top and trigger water level 2. The thing is, they are so uncommon that starting out the stage, it's almost never better to not trigger water level 3. Like, we're talking about only a handful of pieces in the stage where there are, again, about 100 that you can get through the stage. And depending on the piece 1 that you got, then because of the way that it changes the possible layouts that you'll get, there are a lot of layouts where you can't get any of those pieces that will force you to use a different water level. So it's just overwhelmingly a better probability play to go up and use Swish level 3 first. But getting a free piece in that stage was a real benefit there. So now we're in Route 101, which not really going to take a lot of time to commentate what's going on through this whole stage, because honestly, what you see is what you get in this stage. It's just a driving stage, and the only real movement tech that I'm using is by drifting back and forth continually to increase my speed cap. You have 2 different speed caps in the stage, the normal driving speed and the boost speed. If you're just driving normally, then you'll have the boost speed for a bit and then drop back to your normal driving speed, but if you maintain a drift like this and keep snaking, then you'll never lose the boost speed. You'll only slow down if you hit an obstacle or if you go up a hill, and then as soon as you go down the next hill, you'll get that speed back. So 120 is, a low 120 is a pretty standard lap 2 time, so I'm on pace for pretty much getting a high 215 or a low 216, which is very standard for this stage. The time variance in this stage is only ever really measured by a few seconds at most, providing you don't make a huge mistake like crashing into a wall and spinning out, or god forbid taking a death, which is possible in this stage. And there are no checkpoints in this stage either, so if you take a death, you start from the start of the stage again. So potentially this is one of the worst places in the entire run to take a death. And it's actually possible at the very end of the stage. Like, there's going to be some cars that I'm still dodging at the end. There is a specific point where the cars are immediately forced to despawn when I round this corner here. Like, you don't get to see it, but because I passed that blue car, if I was behind it, there's a spot where it would just despawn. If I collide with that car as it's despawning, it takes the entire stage with it. So that forces a death at the very end of the stage, because suddenly you have no road to drive on. And that costs over 2 minutes to die there. It is perhaps the single most costly death you can take in a run of this category. So yeah, don't do that. Make sure you avoid the cars. There's never a situation where you want to hit the cars anyway, because if you need to hit something, like you're in a narrow spot where you need to hit a car or a wall, the wall, as long as you don't spin out on it, forces you to lose less speed. Like, the cars are never the better option to hit. So, Hidden Base. This starts what we call the trifecta of desert stages in this game. We have Tails as Hidden Base, Sonic's Pyramid Cave, and Knuckles' Death Chamber. A lot of runners agree that this is the most difficult part of the run for respective character stages. This is probably the most technical Tails stage, Pyramid Cave is certainly the most technical Sonic stage, and Death Chamber is the most convoluted Knuckles stage. So first of all, I'm going to use another pause hover to clear that gap there. That fence is a lot higher than you're supposed to be able to get over, but again, by getting more momentum than you're supposed to be able to have there, you can just get over it no problem. And the main gimmick in this stage is that there are a lot of these pillars throughout the stage which have dynamite packs on them, so I'm going to need to trigger some of them so that I can keep progressing. Okay. That trick that I just did there, where I hovered off the ledge, is a lot more precise than it looks. I need to hover as soon as I leave the ledge in order to not lose any height, and if I do it correctly, I have just enough height to clear that gap without losing speed, because Tails' ground speed is higher than his air speed. So if I'm able to not jump, then it's slightly faster to do so as Tails. A nice little maze skip there. I had to turn before doing a hover there, otherwise, again, ground cornering would force me to lose my speed. And there's going to be a small out of bounds here with Tails as well on this ending section. Please let me destroy the door. Alright, here we go. A couple of easy hover jumps first of all, and then a couple of more precise hover jumps. And the developers really cut corners during development of this game. They basically decided, okay, if the players aren't supposed to be able to get to a specific wall, we're just not going to bother making collision for that wall. So there are a lot of walls in this game which are just flat out not invisible, they're rendered, but they don't have any collision, so you can just go straight through them, which is exploitable in a lot of places, certainly in Hidden Base, and also in the upcoming level, Pyramid Cave. As soon as I get Sonic's next upgrade, the Bounce Bracelet, I'm going to be able to use it for an advanced technique called Super Bouncing, which is simply, if you have a lot of speed approaching a wall, and then bounce before you hit that wall, the game will immediately convert all of your horizontal speed into vertical speed, so you'll just launch straight up into the air when you hit the wall. And I'm going to be able to use that to also do the same thing that I did as Tails, where I'm going to get higher than the player is supposed to be able to, and it will allow me to go straight through a solid wall. It's also, later in the stage, going to let me use some skewed gravity mechanics, which I'll explain a little bit more as I get there. First of all, I'm going to bounce against the chow box and the corner, because geometry works in weird ways in this game. Use a spin dash hover to cross that gap, and now I'm picking up the Bounce Bracelet. And as soon as we pick up the Bounce Bracelet, we immediately use it to Super Bounce. So there you go, lots of instant height. And this is where I'm going to use it to get out of bounds a little. Okay, just not high enough there, so let's try again. That's going to be high enough, but my camera's a little awkwardly situated. Okay, still landing on the rail. So as soon as I get to this next locked door here, there is a very precise spot where I can just spin dash in the gap between the wall and the door. Got it first try. That is a lot more precise than it looks, and I barely took the time to set it up, so phew. This hallway movement is a lot more difficult than it looks, actually. I'm going pretty slowly here because it's very difficult to maintain speed here. If you're on the right part of the slope, the game considers you as going downhill, which will force you to accelerate, but there are a lot of positions where it will not consider you going downhill. So here's the aforementioned skewed gravity trick. This is what we call snake skip, because I use that snake statue to change Sonic's direction of gravity and then bounce as soon as I leave the ground. And the game actually maintains that skewed gravity for a bit, which allows you to essentially fall sideways. And I'm going to do the same thing here at the end of the stage. This is quite easy to die on, though. Alright, I'm going slow, so that's an easy setup. 144 is not a scintillating pyramid cave, but at least I didn't die anywhere. And as I said, that is the most technical and difficult stage in the run, so I'm fairly happy to have just got through there in one piece. So, assuming that the runner was on a really good pace up to this point, this is where most runs will immediately go to die, Death Chamber. This stage is not very friendly. There are a lot of really bad piece layouts you can get. There are some free pieces you can get as well, but I do have a green first piece, which is not bad. This means I've got one of the better piece 1s in the stage, but it also means that I'm going to get a piece 2, which is fairly far away. So I'm really going to have to see what I get here. If I'd gotten a piece 1 in the blue room, then I would actually be exploiting what we call death strats. Because the blue room is situated very far away from where you spawn, the red room, I would grab a blue piece 1 and then I would actually kill myself, which would give me a teleport back to the red room, and it would also have a good chance of spawning an extra piece with it when I respawn in the red room. Okay, so what's my piece 3? Under the red light. Okay, yeah, these pieces are not particularly good. I'm just having to do a lot of movement between these pieces. I am, however, going to try a clip out to get to this piece a little quicker. So I'm going to go back to the red room. And there is a clip out that I can perform on the snake box, which is right above where I start. And from here I can just go straight to where my last piece is.
It's nice.
Oh dear! Okay.
Oh.
Never mind, I'm taking a death. That distance is a lot more than I'd gauged.
Oh, no.
And unfortunately, although, alright, I get to do it again, and this is considerably easier to reach, although that piece is rendered, there are certain pieces that the game will force you to dig for, otherwise they're not grabbable, and that's one of those pieces. Like, I need to dig for that piece. Same with this piece here. So even though I actually physically collided with it in the void, the game doesn't let you grab it like that. I should have honestly just clipped back into bounds at a sooner point, rather than try to go straight there like that, especially because there's a falling weight that's directly above it that I could have just collided with. I'm learning a lot of lessons for safety in this run, so hey, could be a lot worse.
Glad we could help.
So there's now that we've got through the most difficult stage set in the game, we need to also get through the most difficult boss set in the game. We've got 2 bosses back to back, Knuckles as King Boom Boo and Sonic's Egg Golem. King Boom Boo is a challenging boss for beginners because it's meant to take several cycles, each of which take 40 seconds-ish. But with some proper movement and timing on your punches, then you can actually do this fight in a single cycle, which is what I'm going to be aiming for here. So first of all I need to trigger the hourglass, and then I'm going to need to dig his shadow out the ground, and then with a very precise running angle I can actually keep up with him and keep punching him as he's running away. Got it pretty easily. So, going into Sonic's Egg Golem directly after that, Pyramid Cave was super bounce as the stage, Egg Golem is super bounce as the boss, but because the platforms are extremely narrow, there is barely any time to perform the super bounces. Essentially, I have what I believe is 5 frames to perform 2.5 inputs each. So some of these inputs are near enough frame perfect, as I need to release the spin dash, jump, and initiate a bounce all before I hit this wall that's directly in front of me. And that lets me bounce straight up to the weak spot. But I've gotten 3 bounces relatively quickly, albeit he's still done 2 attack cycles. I'm going to go for a greed bounce here, and I got it, nice. That's pretty dangerous, because if you don't bounce fast enough or get the wrong sort of bounce as you're going up there, you can just fall straight in the sand, which has quite a bit of recovery time. I just missed the victory glitch, which isn't faster, but it's pretty swaggy. If you hit Egg Golem again on his weak spot while the victory animation is playing, the fade to white, you actually gain control during the final screen. So you can move Sonic around and still be doing super bounces. So we're now entering the space stages. We have the desert stages, these are the space stages. These stages are also pretty difficult. First of all, we have Tails' Eternal Engine. And this is a entirely cycle-based stage. Right from the outset, my objective is to get to the halfway point of the stage by a specific time so that I can catch a platform cycle. And then after that platform cycle, there is a out-of-bounds clip to skip the rest of the stage. Currently, my pace is looking pretty good. I'm just destroying enemies fairly quickly to unlock some doors, and I'm also, again, trying not to turn too sharply on the ground around corners. I turned fairly sharply around that corner, but the camera actually does most of the work for turning me there, so the game honestly looks more at what you're doing on the joystick than how much Tails is actually physically turning for deciding whether it's going to cut your momentum. So I do need to play fairly well on the last couple of parts of this stage to make sure I meet the cycle. Just need to trigger this weight, or rather get the switch that prevents it from coming down, and I just need to destroy this enemy. Yeah, a low 105 check, as long as I don't miss this. Yeah, I'll be fine for the cycle now. So I just need to get through this room in one piece by maintaining my lock on that enemy, which prevents him from shooting me, and this cycle is coming up to meet me right as I'm reaching it. So now I have a very precise positional setup for this clip out. Okay, let's try this again. This setup is a lot more precise than it looks. Okay, second try, it's whatever. This is going to be like a 208 Eternal Engine, where the absolute fastest you can expect to get, if everything goes perfectly, is a 156, but I did have to try twice for the clip out, and I didn't go for a setupless clip out. So it's not an awful stage overall. But the basic idea behind that clip out is that Tails' hitbox is really big, and the collision in this game is questionable at best. The drum that I was on in the corner also has really questionable collision of its own, and if you manage to get the two to interact in a very specific way, the game basically has more trouble clipping you back inbounds than it does clipping you out of bounds. So it's just like, you know what, we're just going to send you straight out. It's easier than trying to get you to go back inbounds. Hey, 209.99, that counts as a sub 210, right?
Yes, it does.
It's only a frame, but there it is.
Very sub.
So that was Tails' last stage, and now we're coming up to Knuckles' last stage. This is going to be Meteor Herd. It's by far the largest of the Knuckles stages, but it's also the most open of the Knuckles stages, so although you have to have a really good understanding of where the pieces are, it's really easy to move in because nothing obstructs your movement. So I'm just going to hope to not get some really awful piece sets here, which is possible, but I generally have pretty good luck with this stage. Hot Molten Lava below. This is fairly close to where I start, but it's not a great first piece because it can give you some bad piece twos, so please don't give me Floating Stone. Highest Rotating Beacon. Okay, that's up top, but it's not a bad second piece, because I'm not having to go all the way up to the top of the stage, and I'm pretty likely to get a piece 3 that's somewhere in the middle of the stage from here, which would still be a pretty good piece layout. I'm just glad that I didn't get Floating Stone above a moon. Oh yeah? Question?
Why do you run this as opposed to Dark Mode, or Dark Story?
Because this category is better.
How so?
It is, I believe, more beginner-friendly because Knuckles' stages are, honestly, just easier to learn than Rouge's stages. Granted, there's one more Knuckles stage than Rouge stages, though. Dark Story has a lot of mech stages, Eggman stages, which a lot of runners really don't like, and his stages are more awkward. Sand Ocean is treated by many runners as being one of the most difficult stages in the whole game. And Hero Story is generally just, I think, more engaging, and it's better paced, and there's more technical tricks and skips, so I just think it's a more rewarding category to run. It's also a lot more competitive because a lot more runners do it. Like, if you go to the leaderboards, Hero Story has nearly 500 times.
That is a lot.
So,
that's a lot for a Sonic.
Okay, we're going to have the Rouge boss. So as soon as I gain control at 8 seconds, I just go straight for her without grabbing a ring. And I'm going to use some careful timing to time when to just do the remaining hits. Rouge normally puts up a big fight, but as long as you make sure to just remain airborne, she's honestly pretty passive. And you can exploit that to just time when to do hits into her. So, coming up to Sonic's last 2 stages now, which both have major skips of their own. Crazy Gadget has the most difficult skip in the game for me, CGSS. which is simply going to be a case of I'm going to have a very precise positional setup. I need to do a very precise jump out of bounds while weaving between multiple kill planes. And then the camera's going to face me, and I'm going to need to do a blind fall into the goal ring with barely any visual reference. So as soon as I get to the spot, I'm going to really focus on this, because this is, bar none, the most difficult part of the run. Checkpoint, please. Yeah. Alright, here we go. Okay, I'm out of bounds first try. So now I just need to rotate the control stick to maintain my falling angle. And hit the goal ring first try. Nice. First try CGSS.
Nice.
As I say, that is by a wide margin the most difficult part of the run for me, so I'm really glad that I got that first try.
Wow. Yeah, everyone give that man a pog champ. That was amazing.
This run's hard. This one's really hard. So, yeah, now we have Tails as last boss, so this is the last we're going to see of Tails in the game. The Eggman 2 fight. Casually, a lot of people really struggle with this fight because of his death laser, but it's actually fairly exploitable because it's going to force him to stand still, and so we're simply going to outmaneuver him, and time when to get our hits, and he's going to get to do barely anything. Easy fight, 14.5.
Nice.
Barely even got to see the death laser.
You know a run is good when you measure it in 0.5s.
For reference, the fastest time that you can get on that boss without ridiculous IL strats is a flat 14, and I've gotten as low as like a 14.0x before in that fight, so I've been frames off the optimal time there in the past. So now we have Sonic's final stage, Final Rush, and just like Crazy Gadget, this has a major skip, albeit it's one that is considerably easier. I'm going to use the same skewed gravity bounce trick as in Pyramid Cave to jump off this rail. Well, it's not a bounce, but I'm maintaining skewed gravity nonetheless, and now I'm just going to fall as horizontally as possible for a set amount of time at a set angle, which will allow me to fall outside all of the kill planes in the stage and then fall directly to the goal ring after resetting my gravity. All of this is a lot more precise than it looks, and I'm taking great care, not enough care apparently, to make sure that I don't hit any kill planes. The basic gist of this is that as soon as the camera pans around, right here, then I count up 16 seconds. So it ticks up to 21, so I'm going to wait until 36, 37 I guess. And I'm falling at a specific angle by using the backdrop to judge my angle, because there's a kill plane that's below me that I need to make sure I go high enough to avoid as well. Alright, let's change gravity now.
How in the world did anyone discover this?
Lots of testing and trial and error, simply.
It's very impressive.
So after resetting gravity and turning to the left, there's, again, I'm using the backdrop to gauge where to fall here, and I'm just going to fall straight to the end of the stage. Stage is going to come back into view in about 6 seconds. I'm going to say 106, 107 on the clock. The stage is going to come back into view. There we go, as soon as it ticked 107. And since I'm fairly high up on these pillars, I know that I'm going to have enough height to make it. I just need to make sure to avoid one more kill plane that's to my left. And then I just fall straight into the goal ring, and the only thing that's now between me and the end of the game is the final boss, Shadow 2, which, if executed well, takes no longer than 16 seconds. You simply need to hit Shadow 5 times, but he does a lot to try and avoid you from... to prevent you from being able to inflict damage. So what I'm going to do is a bunch of rhythmic setups with my homing attacks to get into a specific position, and then I'm going to be able to inflict damage on him in between his homing attack running out and him landing on the ground. That's the only time that he's really vulnerable. So I'm going to be counting up the hits as I get them, and time is on the 5th hit.
Alright.
1, 2, okay, I'm having to improv here a little. 3. Alright, bailing out. I am definitely bailing out of that. I am not going for the last hit there because that would not work. Alright, about to get the last hit. Time.
Alright. GG.
Ugh, wow, that was... I had to do a lot of damage control there. A lot of damage control.
Time was a 38:17.
Not
Very
too
good.
bad. Not too bad. Like, as I mentioned before, there's a hero story tournament going on on speed gaming, I'd be pretty happy with a time like that in most races. So yeah, definitely a respectable time, and I'm pretty happy that the run went as well as it did. The RNG was pretty friendly for most of that run. I just made a few too many execution mistakes. But
everyone give Drakodan all of your love and GGs. Go follow him, and
Yeah.
be sure to catch in for that tournament. That sounds really interesting.
yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for letting me do this run. It was definitely a lot of fun.
Of course, very informative, very entertaining.
So what have we got coming up next exactly?
We have the next run is, if I can get it up, Sonic CD 2011 by Sonic Gustar. You'll be doing Tails Beat the Game, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you again to Drakodan. We'll be back in a few minutes and get that all sorted out.
Yep, do stay tuned because Sonic CD is a good run and Sonic Star's my boy, so watch that.